Good morning, good afternoon, and a very happy Monday, guys. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hope everybody is doing well today. It is the start of the week. We've got an incredibly busy week, but what I thought we would do is start Monday off with a little bit of fun, and we are going to talk Batman. So, before I say hello to everybody, let me give a very warm welcome to the one and only Salty Texas C. Good morning.
Oh, I'm sure you can hear my blush over my microphone. You are so kind, Purple. It's great to see you. You and I were chatting in the green room. I know I am excited to talk about the subject matter today. So hail to everybody on the chat.
Heck yes, absolutely. And just quickly, guys, if you are a member, I've posted the link if you'd like to join. It is in the community tab, and I'll probably put the link in the chat as well in a little bit if anybody else would like to jump up. Because I thought what we would do, we'll get a panel together, and what I really want is to hear your views. I want to hear who your favorite Batman is, who the best cape is, who wears the cowl the best. So, before we jump into it, let me say a good morning to everybody. So we have got Sultan Al Fahim. Good to see you. I haven't seen you for a while. Welcome. We've got the lovely Gun Bunny. Good morning. Good to see you, honey. We've got the Underground. Good morning. Great to see you. Brandon the Anime Guy. Good morning, as always. Zachariah 315. Hello. OBG70, good morning. We have got the third that shouldn't be. Great to see you as well. Keely Chow, roll tide, Keely. A very good morning to Project Storytime. Good to see you. I hope you feel better, sweetheart. I really do. You take care of yourself. We've got Jaden Hamilton. Great to see you as always. We've got our favorite polar bear, Snorter Poopers. Hello, good to see you. We've got Psycho Dwarf 9. Hello, love. And we've got Nearsighted Cyclops. Good to see you. As well as always, let me just make sure I'm not missing anybody. I'm Miss D Bud Martin. Hello, sweetheart. I hope you're having a good one as well. And I saw Jester Sin. Good afternoon. Good to see you. And the lovely Kaylee D. Hello, sweetheart. Good morning. So, what I will do, if it's all right with Salty Texas, I think we can trust people, can't we? So what I'll do is I'll just put the link in the chat.
Cheers.
If
I
anybody wants
agree.
to join.
I agree. I was going to suggest bring OBG70 on or
Mhm.
Brandon. Like, let's roll with this thing. Let's turn this into a cage match and see who comes out on the other side.
Hell yes. We're going to have a Batman Thunderdome. And good morning, Bride. It's Day. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. So, while we'll see who else will join, who is your Batman? Who is your go-to? Do you have a favorite film?
Are you asking me or the chat?
You. I'm
Me?
asking you
Sorry, I
specifically.
haven't had enough coffee. You're lovely. I'm the one who's a little slow and the short bus didn't show up today. No, man, like it's a really tough question. And I don't mean to oscillate on that, but honestly, after seeing Batman 89 in the theater, because I worked in the theater when it came out, and all of the other iterations, I honestly have to say that I think Michael Keaton's Batman is my Batman. And I liked what he did. I liked that this was a Batman who we didn't get an origin story. This was a Batman who was in the state of being a Batman.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm going to turn that around on you. Who is your favorite Batman, Purple? Because I've been wondering this for a week.
I fluctuate back and forth. I've got to admit, the one for me that kind of encapsulates it the best has got to be Affleck. I think physically he looks the best, but the one that I remember the best is the same as you. It is Keaton.
Yeah.
Keaton was the first one that I saw on the big screen.
Yeah.
Now I always loved Adam West as well.
Oh yeah.
I like the campy side. I really do.
Yeah.
But
I
it,
mean,
it it was Keaton that really kind of cemented the character and
yeah.
kind of started off my love.
Yeah, it's hard not to have grown up watching those Adam West, Burt Ward campy episodes, and have the on-screen representation of those personas not in your brain. You brought up the point of Ben Affleck. I agree. Like, I loved Ben Affleck's Batman. The problem is I had more good Batfleck in my brain than I think we got on screen. And I wanted to see more good Batfleck. I really did. Now, I think the Snyder Cut gave us more of that, and I happen to really enjoy and love the Snyder Cut of Justice League. And I'm not a Zack Snyder fanboy. I'm not.
Mhm.
But I do think the Nolan Batman series was an uneven outing. I think there were some brilliant moments in it, but at the end of the day, I still go back to Michael Keaton for Batman.
Absolutely. And hello and welcome, Brandon. Good to see you.
Good morning. A topic that is near and dear to me, even though I am absolutely not a comic book person. I do have my Batman. In fact, I'd like to share that Batman with you
Go for it.
because it's
Whip
here,
it out. Whip it out.
Give me just a second while I whip this out.
This out. Yep. See what you did,
Let's see
Purple?
here.
This is what happens when you leave the doors unlocked. You got crazies showing up in the show like me and Brandon.
Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get this thing to actually do what the hell I want it to do. No, of course I can't. Well, anyways, here's the thing. Out of all the Batmans, I do remember seeing 89 when it came out in theater. I wasn't working in the theater. I was just a wee little lad of about 9-10 years old. But the Batman that sticks out to me and was an absolute staple during my early teens into my mid-teens was Batman the Animated Series. And of course, that makes it to where Kevin Conroy is my Batman in that respect. And out of that whole series, my absolute favorite episode is the one with Mr. Freeze, the very first one, Heart of Ice.
Heart of Ice. Great episode. And as you say, I would absolutely include any of the voice actors as well in this. I know a lot of people would just go by, the live action portrayals, but I think, as you correctly say, and somebody else mentioned in the chat as well, Kevin Conroy has given so much to the character. It's his voice that I hear in my head when I read a Batman comic. So yep. I would say definitely include the voice actors as well.
Let's see here. I think I've actually got my sharing kind of figured out, but give me just another moment on that, and let me thank people in the chat for being here.
I'll vamp for you while you work out your technical issues. I actually have a highly inflammatory question, Purple, that I don't know if you want me to bring up on your channel or not. And this is a road that is a dark one, but do we think if George Clooney and Val Kilmer were given good stories and good scripts, would either or both of them had been a good Batman? I have often wondered that.
See, for me, I've never been a big fan of George Clooney, so I don't think anything. I just don't see him as Batman. I just couldn't see him as, the character. Bruce Wayne, he kind of got away with because he's got that kind of smarmy side to him that he played it. But I have a guilty pleasure for Val Kilmer. I actually really liked his Batman. I thought he was a good fit for the character.
I thought out of both of them, I thought Clooney was a miscasting, and let's be honest, it was just a Hollywood cash grab. Let's slam Clooney into another role, But I do think Kilmer could have pulled off a great Batman. I do think he could have, and I love some of his more B tier movies like, Top Secret. Of course, he was awesome in Top Gun. I thought he was pretty good in Willow, although that movie was kind of weak in my opinion. But I think he could have been a pretty good Batman.
I agree. And just quickly, let me say a massive thank you to Psychodwarf9. He sends us a $2 super chat. He says Gotham by Gaslight. Now, I like Gotham by Gaslight, the story, the book, but I've got to admit I wasn't as keen on the animated version that they did. But I really do like the story. So thank you, Psychodwarf. Really appreciate that.
You see, that's one thing. Even though I'm not a big DC person, I have seen most of the animated stuff that they have done over the past 20 years. That's one of them I haven't seen. But out of the stuff that they have done in the past 20, I absolutely love Under the Red Hood and The Dark Knight Returns.
Yes.
They're both really good, really enjoyable. But I think I've got my screen share thing figured out here.
Okay,
So
awesome. Let me bring this on and let's see what we've got.
hopefully we've got some volume. In a world where 90s clips, we have the rabbit. The bat.
God, I love this cartoon. I still think that it holds up to this day. It's so
Oh, yeah.
so good.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was hoping I'd win this on somebody's prize giveaway stream a couple weeks ago by the name of Brightest Day, but let's just say that game is rigged. I really wanted it. My heart was broken yet again, but no, never mind.
That's how life plays out sometimes. And speaking of playing out, the mask must play.
Yes, Mask of the Phantasm. So good.
You guys are making me want to watch this today. I haven't seen this in years.
I saw it recently because I was on a kind of Batman kick, but it still holds up. It's still such a great film.
Yes, it is. It is a really great film. And, you know, as I said, the animated series came out at the right time. To me, you know, for the most part, I was a Marvel person as far as what I would watch or what I knew about. And that's what most of my friends were. And my younger brother, who was the comic book person, they were all Marvel. But when the animated series came out, it's like, holy crap, we're missing out on a ton of stuff with Batman. And it was really true. We were missing out on a lot of stuff. And man, we got a lot of people here today. It's getting full in here. Holy cow.
Hell
Good
yes.
to see everybody here.
And
Are you
welcome, ND
having-
Geek. Good to see you.
Are
Hey,
you having
PB,
performance
how are
issues?
you doing? How's everybody doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Yeah, we're doing real good.
Just happened to-
Mhm.
yeah, I just got done talking with my daughter and realized it was 11 o'clock. So you're on. I was like, oh shit, there's a StreamYard link. Maybe I'll come see what's going on.
Well, yes, we're talking Batman, our favorite Batman films, and we're trying to decide who the best Batman is, since everybody's talking about the newest film.
Well, this one is mine,
Alright.
and let's finish the trailer real quick, and then I'll stop sharing. Here we go.
I'm going to be completely honest when it comes to it. Kevin Conroy is my Batman. Mark Hamill is my Joker.
Yes.
Absolutely. The chemistry that those two have together, and the fact that they've worked not just on the animated, but they worked on films and games as well. They are the quintessential voices for those two characters.
I remember one time I was at my job. It was called A6. I worked computers in an intelligence department for the Air Force at this time. And it was a bunch of contractors, and we were all geeks. And we got into a talk one time, and everybody was talking about who their favorite Joker was. And I just happened to, and I was coming by and I was listening. And one of my buddies was sitting down there, and, people were talking about Heath Ledger. And I was just kind of like, and Caesar Ramon and things like that. And I said, they were like, who's your favorite Joker? I'm like, it's Mark Hamill. And then my buddy, my contractor, he looks up and he goes, I'm going with him.
And hello to Mancave says, also love Mark Hamill as the trickster in The Flash. Yes. And he played him not only as the voice, but he also played him in live action as well, which was pretty funny.
The trickster.
That was one of the last episodes I think I watched of The Flash. And I remember watching Mark Hamill play that trickster. I'm like, if you would just put green in his hair and white makeup on, he could have been the Joker right there.
Oh yeah. But it's the CW. They couldn't do anything right to save their lives.
Right. But they did put the green in the milk in Ryan Johnson's movie. So
Ew.
they got close, right?
I actually did. I did a video on the sell of them selling the CW and went through when it was the WB. How it's funny, and this is kind of a subject change, but just real quick, I made a point of saying that they constantly are bitching about their low ratings, and they're like, "But we're so diversified." I'm like, "No, actually, you're not," because when I looked at what the WB had before then. I was looking at all the shows that the WB had. You had Buffy, you had Angel, you had Seventh Heaven, you had Everwood, you had Gilmore Girls, you had Felicity,
Yeah.
you had One Tree Hill, you had Dawson's Creek, you had Smallville. What you
Hashtag
had
so
was-
white. Hashtag so white.
Maybe,
Well, what I'm
but
saying
that's
is they had
every
a-
single one of
they
those
had-
shows are, they're cult classics more or less, and people still love them and watch them to this day.
I agree. I mean, like, and I'll come out here. I'm going to come out of the closet on this. I am a Charmed fan. I actually loved that show. And for more than just the actresses who were quite beautiful, I thought that that was fun, and I thought it was a great bookend to Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I really do.
Yep.
I'd agree with that. And just quickly, let me say good morning and a big thank you to Jennifer Cisco. She sends us a member chat. She's been with us for 2 months. She says, good morning, all. Good morning, sweetheart. Good to see you. Hope you're having a good one today. So let me just kind of steer it slightly back to Batman. Has everybody seen the film? Or is there still people in the chat that haven't seen it, or are you not really particularly interested in it? Because I know it's been... let's say contentious. There are people that absolutely love this film. There are people that absolutely hate this film. And what I'm not seeing is any kind of anything in the middle. You know, it's kind of it's either really strong feelings one way or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually
haven't
follow.
got a-
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, I was just saying, I didn't get a chance to see it this weekend. I had planned on it, but my father-in-law and brother-in-law came in, so I'll probably catch it next weekend. I'm kind of curious to what I'm going to think about it, because I think Purple Valkyrie really hit it. It's either people really like it or they really don't at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I fall in the middle. I do. And we were talking about it, Purple, and the reasons why. And I'm not trying to just sort of make up a position. That's how I felt since I walked into the theater. I do have an emotion though, and it is disbelief and disappointment, but we can get into that later.
Yes, I think there's a few people that haven't seen it yet, so I'm not going to go into spoilers at the moment. But I think we probably will do that tomorrow night if I'm correct. But I'm really
Sure.
looking forward to kind of getting into it and talking about it with people who have seen it. Definitely. I, for one, and I've got a review coming out that I'm actually waiting for it to process at the moment. I like the film, and this is coming from somebody who wasn't particularly hyped to see it. I've got to admit, I wasn't really moved by the trailers. The casting was always very meh for me,
Uneven.
Uneven, exactly. And I really, and I still maintain I do not like what they did with the Riddler. But having said that, I came out of the film and I actually enjoyed it. The one criticism that a lot of people are banding around, and this isn't a spoiler, is that it is very long, though. So be aware of that for anybody who's going to go see it. It's a long one.
PV, that was kind of my thing too. I'm like, is this really going to be good for almost 3 hours? I mean, I'm going to be honest. The last time I think I saw a movie longer than that may have been Endgame and probably Return of the King. And I will say this, Return of the King was so damn good, I spent the whole time and didn't actually go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Here's from everything that I have seen, heard, talked of, discussed, been part of, etc. I haven't seen it. I don't have any inclination to go see it in the theater, even though that's where it should be seen. There are aspects of this that do stick out, like the cinematography and the soundtrack and the sound effects and all that. That's really good. 3 hours for a Batman film is a bit of a stretch, and I think I'll wait to see it on HBO Max if I even see it at all. But from everything that I've gathered, it's an amalgamation of things, and if you like the amalgamation, that's great. But what they're trying to combine is probably not the best of Batman's source material. Now, from what I do understand, this actually has Batman being the detective as opposed to just being Batman.
Hmm.
So
That's right.
it's a
What,
bit of a change in that regard, but you know,
jumping on from what you're saying, what for you guys makes a Batman film? Is it, the superhero side? Is it the detective side? Is it the gadgets? Is it the costume? What is it when you look for a Batman film? What do you look for?
I look for
Yes.
ones that can't get rid of bombs.
And hello to Project Batman. Hey.
I'm Batman.
No, I'm the Batman.
Oh God.
I'm Spartacus. You guys be Batman. How about that?
I'll
My
take a
mask
cherry
looks-
cola.
My mask looks so official, doesn't it?
It fits better than some of the Batman we've had. Let's say that.
Somebody get Project Batman a cough drop. I think he's got a little laryngitis.
I am under the weather today.
I would like to point out that the whole Batman changing his voice thing when he's Bruce Wayne to Batman, that was Kevin Conroy's creation.
Yes, and
Yeah.
I think certain people have done it better. I didn't like the way that Christian Bale did it, but I think that's more to do with
Where's the trigger?
exactly. It was just badly edited. I know he didn't, put that much emphasis on it when he was acting, but they just dialed it up ridiculously, especially in the last film. He sounds terrible, but I like the change between the Batman and Bruce Wayne. I love that that takes place.
Well, I mean, it helps
One of
distinguish the
the-
two of them.
Well, one of the things I remember, because I'm a huge Batman fan, Purple, we've talked before when we did comic book things, I've got thousands of Batman comics. One of the things I really enjoyed during Nightfall, for example, was you have Bane. Bane is a very smart individual. He's not just a brute. He's very intellectual. And he's on a roof with a pair of binoculars, looks through, sees Bruce Wayne, he goes, there he is. And somebody's like, who? It's like, there's Batman. He goes, where? He goes, you think he can put that mask on and fool me? Because, I mean, he understood that Bruce Wayne was the secret. Bruce Wayne was the fake identity. He was Batman.
Yes.
I mean, even the animated series said this. He said, this is my face with his cowl on. This is who I am.
Mhm. Bruce Wayne effectively died when his parents did.
Yes.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And the one thing that I hate that they keep doing, especially with all of these films, is going over the origin. We've had this so many times with Batman. We know his origin. It's okay to skip that at this point. I think
Yeah.
there aren't very many people out there who don't know that Bruce lost his parents when he was a kid.
It's probably the second or third most famous superhero origin there is. We don't need to hear it again.
I know
Okay,
his origin more than I know my own. Yes.
The three origins you do not need to rehash: Superman, Batman, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's your three.
Yeah, we pretty well got those covered.
Yeah.
I think
We
that's
know
one
what
of the
happened.
things. I think that's one of the things I like about Batman '89 is you have a Batman who is rocking, who's got it together, who's maybe trying some things out for the first time, but he
He's
kind of knows
established.
who it is. Yeah, he knows who he is. The elements and I don't want to get into too many spoilers. And I think this is not the first time you've probably heard this criticism, is that Robert Pattinson plays a pretty decent early career Batman, but he is not the Bruce Wayne that I think a lot of us wanted to see, that persona that he maintained to be that swinging, rich guy, like the last person you would ever expect to be the Caped Crusader. That element in this movie, without spoiling it, I would say is pretty much absent from what Christopher Reeves
Really?
did.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think you mean
Michael Reeves.
I think you mean Nolan or
Michael
Michael
Reeves.
Keaton. Michael Reeves or Michael Keaton.
Who did you mean?
Either way, I know exactly what you mean, but I kind of like that. I like the switch up because, as you say, it's something that we've already seen before. And just quickly, let me say thank you to Hasta. Good to see you as always, Hasta. He sends us a super sticker and it's a unicorn. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Good to see you.
From TV, what I've been told is that they took several elements from Batman Year One, Batman Year Two, and from what I understand, took a lot from The Long Halloween, which are all comic books I've read.
Hmm. Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good kind of summation of where the inspiration came from. And those are all great books, don't get me wrong. I think it works really well. Some people have said that they can see the new 52 in it. I didn't see it really. I would say it based a lot more on a lot of the older stories that you've listed than that. But at least for me, just going back to some of the other films, I loved, the 89 Batman. I loved the style of it. I loved Tim Burton's vision for Gotham. And the one thing in this new film as well is Gotham looks great.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, one thing you asked, Purple, and I want to answer that question, is what makes a Batman movie? And you have the grittiness, you have Gotham in decay. Now that can be interpreted. And then, of course, to me, it's always been, where is Batman in the shadows? Where is Batman going to come out? And that fear in especially the street level has Maxfield von Priestley likes to call it the street level villain that's out there. This movie, I think, did a really good job of that when the bat signal is seen, the bad guys at that street level, the thugs and the kneecappers, they're like, okay, it's time to go home and go to bed. And I actually really like that. And I'm not entirely sure that we ever saw that in any other iteration of a Batman movie before. But I think it's, where is Batman going to be? And then, of course, the unbridled to the edge of homicide violence that Batman will use to resolve a situation. But he always takes he stops one half step from becoming that which it is that he claims to be fighting. And I think those are the hallmarks of a good Batman character, that he is there, he is driven for vengeance, he has a clear moral code, he operates in stealth, but when he's out of the stealth, he is full on gangbusters bazooka. Like, you're going to be on the ground in a million pieces. That's what I like to see.
See, that's, I think, one of the things that we lost as well with Batfleck. His version of Batman definitely, I think, strayed over the line. And I like that we've now got a more kind of self-contained Batman with Patterson. What about you guys? Do you think?
Well, with Ben Affleck's Batman v Superman, you could tell they took a lot of elements from The Dark Knight Returns.
Mm-hmm.
That was a given. I'll tell you, PV, when it comes to me, when I think of Batman, I think the intelligence, the skills he has, and the gadgets, because, I mean, he's mortal. He's human. Everything he does, he goes up against people that are far superior than him. And even though he's in great shape, when he's fighting lower level thugs, that's one thing. But when he's got to go up against intellectual people that are smart, he has to think. He has to review. He has to, find the proof. I like my Batman as an intellectual detective with the occasional fist fighting. I mean, okay, fist fighting can be done anytime, any day of the week. But it's really when you get into... Okay.
The Greatest Detective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think of we've talked about this, PV. Think of it. I like my Batman when the stories kind of are more like stories from the Sandman. Does that make sense? The intellectual side of it.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. I like the more, intellectual stories as well, definitely. Oops.
One of the best stories I read in Legends of the Dark Knight was one called Venom, and this is Batman in maybe his third year, and he's trying to save a girl from drowning, and he cannot lift the he can't lift it up, and she drowns, and he goes through a crisis where he's like, nothing I do, I will never be strong enough, and he ends up taking the drug Venom, which of course we know Bane uses. And yeah, he gets stronger, but then the whole story is not only him getting stronger, but him getting, more aggressive because of the steroids and what he has to do to get over it and realizing he's gone too far. And that was his moral compass, having to come back to deal with his guilt. Now he's dealing with gone too far. My guilt overrid my moral compass. My addiction is overriding my moral compass. Now I have to suffer. And in one point in the story, he tells Alfred, no matter, he goes, you're locking this door. No matter what I say, you do not come in here for 30 days.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the things I think we've got, especially with this new film. It's definitely more adult orientated, whereas the films that we've had in the past, especially, the 89 Batman and Batman Returns, they were more kind of family friendly, and then we had the Schumacher films, which were a lot more brighter, a lot more goofy, and then we had the Christopher Nolans, which tried to ground them much more in reality. I think he tried a little bit too hard. I think he forgot that he was actually dealing with a superhero because he tried so hard to make him believable in a real setting.
There's some rumors floating around that this movie was rated R, as it is cut, but supposedly passing along some Benjamins to the right people help change their mind. But if you're watching it, it definitely is not. It's not a show that you should take your kids to if you've got younger kids.
I saw that
right
yesterday.
up to that edge.
Yeah, I saw a guy bring his 3 young sons in, ranging from probably 6 to 11 yesterday. And they were all, I know, they were 2 seats down from me and spent the entire movie bored playing with the lights and the chairs that go back and forth. But I tuned it out. But they left about an hour and a half in, and you could tell. I think the runtime is a problem, but the adult themes, I think, are just as big of an issue with this movie. This is probably not something you want to bring a kid under 10 to go see.
Yeah.
And this is not, I would say this isn't at the level of 7. I've heard a lot of comparisons, and I don't know, Purple, how you feel about that with the graphicness of this film, but it's certainly, it has violence in it, but it is not the grotesque, that I would say would expect. It has, I would say, graphic novel accurate gruesomeness, but it never really crosses that line, in my opinion, of being gross.
The single biggest problem of this show is its length, and that seems to be the one constant that I've heard, whether people like it or hate it, is they needed to cut it down by about 45 minutes and tighten everything up. Had they done that, then it probably would have been fine. But there's only so much editing and reshooting and all that stuff you can do, and obviously the director didn't feel like doing that, and the editors didn't feel like doing that.
Well, there's rumor floating around that there's an even longer version of this film, that this is the cut version that we got.
No. They're not Peter Jackson. They can't get away with that crap. There's only certain people that can get away with having a movie in the theatrical release version of it be 3 hours plus long. There's only very few, and this is not one of them. But I did forget about one Batman, and I've actually got a gift shared.
Yes,
that I think is a little funny.
Bring that up in just a moment, but let me get a couple of messages. I want to say a huge thank you to Salty Texas C. He says, thank you. Hail to the one woman who could have been, should have been, Caster Jarl Harkin in Vikings. Cheers.
True story. That's undeniable.
And let me say a massive thank you to Eldritch Lord Haster, he sends a member chat. He's been here for a year. Thank you, Haster. Well, he's been here for 14 months, actually. He says, hello to the panel. Hello, Haster. Great to see you, as always. Thank you.
14 months. You're about halfway through the Batman movies. Stick with it. It'll end eventually.
Somebody mentioned something when I mentioned 3-hour movies, and they did point out that Dune was about 3 hours long. I'm going to be honest. Dune was a movie that, well, I watched it at home, and I could pause it a couple times to go to the bathroom. Other than that, I did not realize it was a 3-hour movie. It didn't feel like it. And that's a big concern, because I think Purple Valkyrie, I heard you, and I've heard Stone Loki talking about it and others, and we all kind of said it didn't feel like a 3-hour movie.
It didn't. We've had long films as well. We've had the Lord of the Rings. We had the Schneider Cut, which was 4 hours. These films did not feel like you were sitting there for that long. This Batman film, although I enjoyed it, as I said, you feel it.
You do, but there are also triggering moments in the movie, and I don't know to what depth we want to go into them, where you are taken out of the suspension of disbelief in very ham-fisted ways, where it's literally like you're walking along a sidewalk and the sidewalk stops, and you have to like cross the street to get back on a sidewalk, and I think there's a lot of probably reasonable reasons why that happened, but it's jarring, because I was immersed, and I was, even though it was imperfect for probably the first hour and a half, 2 hours, and then some things start to happen where you're like, oh, why did you do that?
That's the problem with modernity and the times that we're living in. That's the other thing that I hear is about the first half, 2/3, maybe 3/4 were fine, and then you just have to judge for yourself. But that seems to be part of the consensus that I hear. But speaking of a favorite Batman that gets no love, I got my gift shared for you if you're ready.
Yep, we'll pull that up. Let's have a look.
I'm Batman. Barbara, it's good to see your butt. I mean back. Damn it. That is the perfect parody.
We need Melly Vanelli to be synced up with that, because that would be perfect.
I think there's only one of them left alive right now.
That's too
one
many.
of them did pass.
If I could even remember.
Well, I mean, okay, so
when your age.
Okay, so as for me, I overall enjoyed the film, but I don't think anything will ever top Mask of the Phantasm.
No, nothing can, because it is a perfect combination of what they were doing with the animated series and what they were doing with the comic at the time, as far as the look, the feel, that the era of Gotham that it's set in, being basically futuristic retro at the time. You got the old Gothic look, the old 40s, 50s look, but then having computer technology and everything else that the Batman has.
I believe
I
believe Bruce Timm described the aesthetic as if the 1939's World's Fair never ended.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I think I heard that one.
Yeah,
I'm not feeling well, so I'm gonna go lie down.
You go get some rest.
Go lay down.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
All right, see ya.
See you
Bye.
later.
And actually, the Matt Cave did bring up something very interesting. The new DC Pets, Super Pets. Keanu Reeves is going to be the Batman.
Yes, I watched the trailer yesterday. I've got to admit, I'm not too concerned about this film, but it looks fun. It looks silly. It's not one that I'm going to go see at the cinema, but if it's streaming somewhere, I will give it a glance, I think. But it looked funny.
Purple sent that to me, and I wasn't quite sure how to respond. I was like, "Boy, she likes this. I don't know if I can be her friend." But
I said it was interesting. Not that I liked it.
Well, it was the 3 periods afterward, and I was like, "Oh, she's being very English and understating." So, what I thought, and you guys, and I don't want to derail this conversation, but think about this. Imagine if Keanu Reeves played Alfred to Pattinson's Batman. I still think that would be freaking amazing. Where you had Alfred be, dude. Oh my God. Yeah, no, but he would be an incredible Alfred, I think, and then also to unleash maybe some of that John Wick within that world that Reeves has created. I think would be fun. I think it would be fun.
They keep going towards that kind of Alfred, don't they? They've gone away from the very proper English butler Alfred that we had in the past to the kind of bodyguard Alfred that we've seen more modern. And we've seen it in the comics as well. Now, if you're going to go down that route, I could absolutely see that, definitely.
I mean, I think Michael Caine, to me, is the perfect cinematic Batman. He really is. I mean, no one makes me want to hear about tangerines more than him. But
you know how many bad guys I've taken out who had no name? Just go lay down now. Just go lay down. Daddy didn't love me.
He was a great foil.
It's funny you guys brought up Keanu Reeves. I finally got my server working again to get my little kind of home Netflix that I use through Plex. And first thing I watched was actually for the first time 47 Ronin with Keanu Reeves, and actually quite enjoyed it.
Does he surf?
Oh, by the way, there's no surf. He's actually pretty. By the way, Purple Valkyrie, guess what my son started watching as soon as he got on the Plex again? Doctor Who.
No. Oh, nice.
He started with the Ninth Doctor. I figured he'd probably understand that genre at 14 more than he would understand the other ones. He's already finished the Ninth. He's already finished Eccleston's run. He's on David Tennant's. Now I got to explain to him how the specials work so he knows when to watch them. So I was like, look, when the season's over, let me know, and I'll let you know if there's a special you need to watch. And then he's coming at me with like a million Doctor Who questions, and I'm just like, oh God, where's Dr. Alex, and where is Purple Valkyrie, and where's Yvette when I need him? Sorry,
he picks a good one to start with. But
I'm gonna take off now, y'all. So I'll just be in the background, and thank you so very much. And you all have yourself a great day, and be sure to toss a coin to your Purple Valkyrie. Oh, Valley of Plenty.
It was great to work with you, Brandon. You and I have been encircling each other in chats for forever, but we'll have to talk again sometime. You're good people.
Most definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. I really appreciate that.
We'll see you later.
You have a blessed
See you. And Matt Cave brings up a really good one. I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Since we're talking Alfred, who do you think had the best kind of relationship with Bruce or Batman, whichever way you want to look at it, within the films?
I'm gonna say Batman Returns. He just kind of seemed like the more proper English Alfred that I was used to.
I'm going to echo that, Purple, and the reason why is I like the hinted at backstory that they gave Michael Caine's Alfred. That this is a guy who, you know, if he wasn't in the French Foreign Legion, he was definitely a mercenary going in and knows what he's talking about. So, and now that he's, you know, in a more retired position, he's there to offer advice as a grandfather, not so much a father to Nolan's Batman, but more of an uncle or grandfather role, which I think was really good considering the age, how we got a much more mature Batman in Nolan. And to me, that really resonated. And I really liked Michael Caine like that. But then, of course, the Adam West Alfred was pretty awesome too. Let's be honest about it.
He was. I really liked him as well. I think Michael Caine kind of really brings the character to life. As you say, he is sort of a surrogate father with a past of his own. But I think with Christian Bale's Batman and being so kind of over the top and sort of gung ho in some
Yeah.
of the films, especially the last film with Bane. I think he is a good kind of balance. He kind of brings him back down to earth, and that's why I hated The Dark Knight Rises so much at the end, because of what Bruce does. You know, he basically disappears and Alfred thinks that he's died. Bruce
Yeah.
would never do that. He would never leave Alfred thinking that and not tell him that he's, you know, I'm just going to disappear. I'm not actually dead.
I also liked how that Alfred, the complexity you're talking about, Purple, which is, you know, there's violence, there's that edge. Where is that edge when you're dealing with true evil? Do you need that edge, or are you justified in crossing it? You know, and I think that's where Michael Caine's Alfred really played a good role, because this is a guy, you know, did some really shady, questionable, mercenary things, and for him to sit there and offer the advice that he does, I think that to me was really powerful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hasta brings up the 89 Alfred. That was that Michael Golf, was it? If I remember correctly. I have to go back and check.
That's the one.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's
I
the one that
really liked
felt
him.
to me more like. Yeah, that's the one that felt to me more like an Alfred I knew from the comic books. One of the in the storyline of Nightfall, after Batman's back is broken and Jean-Paul Valley takes over as Batman, that people I think forget, Bruce and Alfred had a falling out, and Alfred actually quit, and he actually goes to the Wayne Manor, and there's Jean-Paul Valley there, and he's basically like, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "I'm cleaning this place one last time, and then I'm leaving." And he actually would not come back for a while until Dick Grayson kind of talked him into coming back.
Oh, there are so many things I want to say that are spoiler related to this movie, but I'm not going to.
Well, tell you what, let's kind of move away from the spoilers. We've talked about the films that we do like. What about the ones that don't make your top 5? What about the films that you don't like? Because there are plenty of them. I know which ones would be at the bottom of my list if we were ranking the Batman films.
Batman and Robin, absolutely the worst.
There you go. Exactly.
Yeah.
There's no way around it. There's no way around that. Batman Forever may be lower on my list, but I at least will admit it's a guilty pleasure of mine.
Yeah, I saw all those in the theater, and
I
walked out of Batman and Robin. I just, you know, this was the 90s, and I was like, I'm gonna go drink. Like this is not my Batman, you know. But I tell you, I was really annoyed with the other movie where we had Jim Carrey as the Riddler, and
that was Batman Forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Batman Forever, and then also Tommy Lee Jones has in there as well, and then of course, it's just Jim Carrey was so over the top that it ceased being a Batman movie, and it was a Jim Carrey movie that had somebody playing Batman in it, and I think that to me makes it the worst Batman movie ever made.
Yes, I would agree with that. He wasn't trying to make something of the character. It seemed like he was trying to copy Frank Gorshin's version of the Riddler. And I love Frank Gorshin.
Yeah, I did.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm not the only one who caught that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't
Because it seemed
dislike
like he
Jim
was trying to
Carrey,
do
you know, as an actor. I think he's fine. But it was a pretty terrible film, to be honest. But I still agree with you. I think just for, you know, the sheer absurdity, I think Batman and Robin is the weakest film. And it's the one that Joel Schumacher, I think he apologized for, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. Even George Clooney apologized and said, "I think I just killed the Batman franchise."
Mm-hmm.
He didn't do on his own, to be fair. You know, none of the cast were great. We had George Clooney as Batman. We had Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, who felt like a character that they just kind of tagged on. She wasn't needed. We had Uma Thurman, who could have been an amazing Poison Ivy.
She could have been, and I think that is one of the biggest misses. And I think she could actually come back in the Batman universe and be Poison Ivy. I think she could, and I think she would do really, really well. But that's just my hot take. But I love Uma Thurman. So
If Uma Thurman could play Poison Ivy kind of in a similar way she did Kill Bill, I think that
Yeah.
would work.
Yeah,
I think
quiet.
if she could take, yeah, I think
Quiet.
if she
Yep.
could, I think if she could do Beatrix Kiddo, kind of take some of that and apply
Mhm.
that to Poison Ivy. Oh God, she'd be a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the problem with this film is all of the characters were dialed up to 11. They were all over the top for what they needed to be. But I will say I have a kind of guilty pleasure that I actually liked Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze.
Oh
he,
God.
he made me laugh. He
true.
was just having so much fun with that character. He knew he was playing a stupid role, so we just went with it.
Yeah,
But
well, he definitely went his full range as an actor in that role. You could tell that he had nothing left to give in his acting chops. He literally did everything that Arnold Schwarzenegger can do. I agree.
My problem with that was, well, my problem with Batman and Robin was twofold. Well, actually, there's a lot of problems, but too many to mention. I did not like what they did with Bane. Absolutely.
Mm-mm.
Because they made Bane a freaking idiot. And Bane is one of the smartest villains Batman has ever gone up against. And why Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze? You should have found the skinniest, lankiest person to play that role and actually play that role more. Okay, the best time I've ever seen Mr. Freeze played was honestly in the Batman the Animated Series.
I agree with that. I think that's fair.
yes. Well, they took a very kind of low-level character, and he was kind of campy. I think people are talking about it in the chat as well. In the 66 Batman, he was kind of a joke. But with the Batman animated, they gave him a new backstory. They made you actually care about this character, and it elevated him.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, it's wild. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Salty.
No, I was just going to say, as we're going through this, it's hard to say this out loud because I really respect what what Nolan did with Batman, but I still struggle making it through Batman Begins. I do, and I don't know if it's the pacing, I don't know if it's Christian Bale, but it's a movie that feels like it should have been half reshot, and it would have been a great movie.
Mhm.
Now, what do you guys think about that? Now, we all remember Heath Ledger's performance. To me, I think that obviously that is the axle on which the entire Nolan Batman universe turns. But what was it about Batman Begins that was, is it boring the right word? Not a good movie? I mean,
I don't know whether it was boring, but for me, I think it's because it was such a deviation from what we'd had before. We'd had a big stretch where we didn't have any Batman films because of what Schumacher did, and that was kind of what was in people's minds.
Yeah.
And like we said before, Nolan wanted to really ground these films in reality as much as you can when you're dealing with comic book characters, and I think that kind of really showed in this film. I think by the time we got to the second film, I think he knew what he was doing. Which is why the Dark Knight is a much better film. But I like Batman Begins. I like that they used the Scarecrow. I think it was a good idea not to jump straight into using the Joker, to use another villain. And the Scarecrow is a great villain if you use him properly.
I think that movie could have been so much more. I really, that's my problem. And maybe my criticism is unfair, but I just think it didn't feel like it didn't have an urgency that I wanted in that movie. But again, that's so nitpicky compared to entertainment in the last 10 years, I guess. It's a luxury to talk about how a pretty good movie wasn't great.
It is.
I would say with Batman Begins, what probably could have made it better, in my opinion, is not start at the beginning. Okay. I think it would have been great if they could have kind of started out the way 1989 did, where, he comes up, he drops in, they're like, "Who are you?" "I'm Batman." And then throughout that part of it, you flash back to say, what he was doing to get to that point. I just think that might have been a little more entertaining than spending almost half the movie of him learning to become Batman.
Yeah. I do think there's an element to Batman, especially with trauma-related displacement, you know? And I hope it's something that Christopher Reeves as a director is smart enough to start incorporating, because without giving away spoilers, Batman should have been dead a couple times because he miscalculated some jumps. His equipment malfunctioned in some situations, and I watched the stunt work, and I was like, oh my! I literally was yelling profanity, going, "Holy, shit!" It was like Batman was not at his peak. He in this movie, which is good, but I think there's an element going to talk about has Batman learning to be Batman and all of the times he's been hit and shot, especially in what Christopher Reeves did, where those type of flashback scenes that can bring the past in. I think there's an element, if they're smart, they could do it, because that disassociation that occurs in combat or in these stressful situations comes back when you're sitting down, and overwhelms you. And I think that would be really great to see. I'm not a huge fan of flashbacks, but having been someone who had PTSD, I think it's a really good, it would be a really good way to show some of those things from the past.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree with that as well, definitely. Let me just say quickly a massive thank you to the Man Cave. Thank you so much. He says, I didn't know that I needed Batman versus TMNT in my life. Then I saw it. Now I can't imagine living without it.
I have not seen that one yet.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's definitely worth watching. So I think it's one that I'm going to add to the list to see. So thank you.
I've got to see this. I want to watch Batman eating pizza with the Ninja Turtles. That would be cool.
That would be amazing.
And I'm going to call it here, Batman likes pineapple on his pizza. That's all I'm going to say. So.
I like pineapple on pizza. It's a hill I would die on.
That's why we're friends. That's why we're friends. Yes.
And let me say thank you to Rod Thunderheart as well. Thank you, sweetheart. Good to see you. It says, hail. It was a Batman movie by somebody who doesn't understand Batman. I really hated him knocking on the door. Hello, can I please speak to the manager? I think they were trying very hard to do a few kind of tongue-in-cheek jokes. And I think because the rest of the film is so serious, a lot of people didn't quite get the humor. In a lot of that, I thought it was funny. I thought some of it was quite unironically supposed to be funny, like you mentioned about he's not particularly great with his gadgets. That had me laughing for 5 minutes.
I know there was that. Oh yeah, where he hits that underpass. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm like, there should be 3 pieces of Batman right now, and then somehow he gets up from it. But yeah, I agree. And there's another scene where oh God, I want to talk about it. It just involves the police station. You remember?
Yes.
And he gets on the roof, and I was like, okay, now that's the Batman I want to see going, what am I doing? Yeah.
So whether it was intentional humor or not, but I still thought it was quite
It was
funny.
human, though. It made him human, and it broke that. It didn't, not in a bad way, but it broke the dark, brooding 70s sort of French Connection vibe that the movie was going for, which it did pretty well. But it was cool to see Batman have those moments of humanity where he's going, oh shit, like this is not a good idea.
What the hell am I thinking?
Exactly.
I thought it worked well, I've got to admit. And like you say, it is. I think we've had those few moments of kind of levity and, a few bits of lightness. It's a very heavy, dark film.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned it earlier. This isn't a film for, the casual Batman fan. If you're thinking you're going to go in and see a Batman film similar to what you've seen with Nolan or what you've seen before with the 89 Batmans, it's very different. But for me, I liked it. I liked it for the same reason that I like Joker, because it was different.
Yeah. I think with this movie, I wish someone would have told me to get up at a certain point and not watch the last 35 minutes. If I would have done that, I would have said this movie was in my top 3 Batman movies. But because it kept going and didn't seem to want to end, and I'm obviously not the only one that said that, it was the addition of that. It wasn't even filler. It made no sense why it was even on screen. But I think if they just would have ended it a little earlier, this would have been a masterpiece. I don't say that lightly, because I made a couple reviews trashing Pattinson as Batman, and I'm going to make a review to address it. I think he's an okay Batman. I think he's a terrible Bruce Wayne. I think the movie and the atmospherics were great, though. So.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's definitely a Batman and a Bruce Wayne that's kind of one, it's the Batman that's learning to be Batman, and two, it's I actually like the deviation that we don't have the Playboy Batman, Bruce Wayne this time. I thought that was at least interesting that they did it that way, especially since we've got Andy Serkis playing Alfred. I just wanted him to slap the shit out of him at one point.
Oh yeah. Oh, I know. It's like, stop brooding,
There is one time in a later comic book where Alfred and Bruce are sitting down in the Batcave, and he goes, "You know how you do that change in your voice when you're Batman?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "You're doing it all the time now." Alfred was kind of that's what he said. And
where's the trigger?
It sounds to me like this had many elements. Batman Year 1, 2, and maybe even Long Halloween. Batman was still getting used to what he was doing. If you've ever read Batman Year 1, first time he goes out, he gets his ass kicked and gets slashed. And he's like, "They don't fear me." So it kind of goes to the point of all the training he's done. Well, that's great until you hit combat, and then we find out how well your training really plays out.
Then you've got to put it into practice. Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that is one thing this movie does do, is it doesn't make him overpowered at all. I mean, there were a couple instances when he got hit full on with a shotgun blast where I'm going, we need to talk about this, because, the amount of damage that this Batman took, if they're going to have a trilogy, probably starting by the second movie, it's going to impact his ability to be Batman. If we're trying to have something that's gritty and based in reality like Christopher Reeves has, and maybe that's deliberate. Now, Purple, you've seen the movie. Am I overanalyzing this, or were you shocked by how many hits he took in this first movie?
I don't think so, because like you say, this is somebody who has just he's been doing it for just a couple of years. I think it's somebody who's still trying to figure out what he wants and how he's going to be this vigilante that he wants to be. They do use the element of fear very well, I thought, in this film.
God. Yes.
They definitely try to kind of show how intimidating he is, even before he starts kicking people. I actually love that. The use of the music in this, it has a fantastic soundtrack.
It was incredible.
I love that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and I don't want to get into spoilers, but kind of the first time you see Batman in action, he really does come out of the shadows, and the way that it's done is so well. The stylization of this is undeniably gritty New York City from the 70s, early 80s, when it was a hellhole, unlike the hellhole it is now.
I was going to say, what?
Sorry, didn't mean to steal the punchline to that one. But no, it's crazy. Chris Reeves, the director, I think has done there's some sublime elements that occur in this movie that, if you're like, I'm just turned 52, events that happen in the 70s and the 80s, that there was the subway vigilante Bernard Getz in New York City, and you start to see little homages to things, because I'm sure this guy is like my age or whatever, and it's kind of cool, and I respect that, like his historical literacy and incorporating some of the things that happened during that time in this movie, I think is really cool. I do. But again, this is not a great movie, and that's the part that pisses me off. Is this could have been probably one of the finest Batman movies ever made, but they didn't let it finish baking, and they didn't trim off enough stuff,
Yeah, I don't know whether they didn't let it finish baking, more that they left it in the oven too long.
Sorry, Purple. Yes, not Christopher Reeves, who is unfortunately dead. Matt Reeves. Sorry. Yeah. Too many Reeves running around.
I've got to admit, it's probably in my top 5. It is probably number 5 for Batman films for me. Now, whether or not we will have subsequent films and it pushes it out of the top 5, that is possible. But if this was a standalone film, I think it works really well. Now, we know that there's going to be more films coming. We know this is it's going to be a trilogy, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
So I will be curious to see how they kind of build upon this and how they kind of build upon the world that they've created, because this is a very different Gotham than what we've had before.
Yeah.
But the one thing that this film really did have going for it was the cast. The cast did do very well in all of the roles that they played. Even I was very skeptical of
Zoe.
Patterson. Zoe, I've got to admit, I thought she was good. She's not my favorite Catwoman by any stretch of the imagination, but I liked her as a character. She wasn't overly powered. She wasn't, kicking everybody's ass. She was believable, which I really liked. But the weakest side for me is the villains. And now I thought the Penguin was awesome. I really, really enjoyed it. And I agree with the Underground. The Penguin stole the show for me. I agree. Colin Farrell was phenomenal. I was really impressed. But I hated what they did with the Riddler. And I will still say to this day,
I agree.
They did him as a really bad character.
Well, honestly, what they could have done is make their own. They could have made their own new villain, and had the Riddler been maybe communicating with him from Arkham, because I think that would have been a much more powerful way to have all of this, that this other character was a surrogate for the Riddler, as opposed to being the Riddler.
Well, we talked about several. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I was just going to say, two things. One, it sounds to me that maybe they should have gone, if they were going to go in the Halloween time, because if I'm understanding the set's place in Halloween, they might have done better going with the Calendar Man from Long Halloween.
Calendar Man would have been a much better villain. Not for that, but for a certain villain that you meet later on. I think he could have been swapped out for, and it would have made a hell of a lot more sense than who they went for. But that's a spoiler, so we won't talk about that one.
Now, I will say this. When it comes to Catwoman, I stand with Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yes. Yeah, I loved Michelle Pfeiffer as Catwoman. I thought she was brilliant. I liked, I liked Eartha Kitt as well. I thought she was great. Lee Merriweather was awesome as well.
Lee Merriweather rocked the Catwoman costume, and that's all I'll say in my patriarchy, objectifying, you should be easy on the eyes for me thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, come on. The 60s Catwoman, yes, she was gorgeous. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on which one we're talking about, because if I'm not mistaken, there was 3.
Yep.
Yes.
Newmar,
yes.
Eartha
Judy
Kitt.
Newmar. Yep.
Yep. And Merriweather.
Absolutely. So before we do wrap this up, kind of what would you say? Would you say that this is a character that has got a great legacy? I mean, we've had so many Batman films now, and we've talked about it. There's been so many different origin stories. Do you think there is a kind of quintessential Batman, or do you think that all of these films, all of these actors bring something to the character?
I'll let Grandpa go first if he wants. Otherwise, you tell me.
I'm going to say that if we go back all the way to the 60s, that was a fun kind of campy time. That was the lighthearted Batman that we had never seen before. And then you get into Batman Returns with Michael Keaton. And of course, nobody thought he was right for the role. I thought he did a great job. The second 2 movies that came out, the Schumachers, well, yeah, those are at the bottom of the barrel, even though, like I said, the other one's a guilty pleasure. Forever's a guilty pleasure. I have been very adamant. I'm not the hugest fan of the Nolans. There's something about Christopher Bale playing Batman that just has never worked with me. I just never have really worked with it. I thought he was too goddamn skinny. I'm just going to say it right there. He was too damn skinny for a Batman. That's something that's always bothered me. I think Kevin Conroy really brought more. I think over the years since Kevin Conroy has done the voice, that he had more of an impact on how Batman went in the future, both in the comics and in the movies, than I think anybody realized at the time. But when you reflect on it, you look at TAS and, or sorry, not TAS, Batman, the BAS, and I don't know why Star Trek came into my head. But he really kind of and one of the things they had in that Batman was him having a relationship with Robin, with Dick Grayson, which I thought was a big deal. And Tim Drake. Those were really good elements that were brought in. I just thought he did the best job with it and really kind of lifted what Batman could be that, Nolan, Bale, and Patterson, kind of are, using a lot of those mechanics that came from the animated series.
Mm-hmm.
You guys,
Yeah,
what do you think?
I would agree with that. I mean, you can't really go wrong if you're going to lift something. I would say, the animated series, and I think a lot of people love it for a reason. It is, it's their kind of go-to if you want Batman. It's so well written, so well acted, and it was it nearly 30 years? It's been around now.
Let me check.
It still holds up to
yeah.
this day. It is a brilliant series.
Well, I mean, think about what it also spawned. It spawned Batman Beyond, another great show. The Superman, the Justice League Unlimited. I believe Static Shock was another one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then all the animated movies that Kevin Conroy did as Batman, and then of course what he's done in the Arkham games and stuff.
Yes, I would agree with that. What about you, Salty?
And I don't want to go down this road too far. What's really fascinating about what Matt Reeves has done is everybody has said that Pattinson's Batman is going to be in his own sandbox. This world is not going to be part of the DCEU. This is just going to be a one-off thing. Now, if there's a trilogy, okay. Now, we know we're getting Batgirl, which is not going to the big screen unless that's changed in the last month that I've heard about. It's only going to be on HBO Max or Plus or whatever.
Yep.
The heck. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's where we're going to be getting Michael Keaton's Batman stuck in. And I'm the problem I'm having is they're creating these characters, but without any continuity. And it's just like hitting the reset button. It's like Total Recall on these characters. And I guess that's the problem I have. I would like Batman to be in the same universe with this Batgirl that they're creating. And I would like for the same bad guys, including Colin Farrell's, Penguin and all those other characters to be in the same universe. Otherwise I don't know. I don't know why they're not doing that. The only explanation I have is the lack of talent to be able to do that.
Well, they seem to be going in that direction because we have got the Penguin show that's coming, and we have got the GCPD show as well. So it seems like they're building an extended universe around Matt Reeves's films. Almost, which is interesting. We can kind of go for that, but I don't know how popular these shows are going to be. I think most people are going to gravitate towards the films as they usually do. We've had Batman related TV shows before. We had Gotham, which was based on the GCPD, and you can't really have a Batman show without Batman. It doesn't work. That's the main issue that these shows have, and I don't know how interested people will be to have the Penguin as a main character, as charismatic as Colin Farrell was.
Agreed. Yeah, and that was my point, Purple, which was just how many different iterations of the same character are you going to have across multiple different properties, and I would rather have one, and get a good movie every 2 years as opposed to just, I guess, what we're seeing with Disney Star Wars, or Disney Marvel.
Yes, I think that's the one thing that I will give Marvel. They really did figure out how to build this template with the MCU. They went in the opposite direction to what DC seemed to have done, whereas they had all the films first and then they went on to the live shows. Whereas DC have always had, TV shows based around their characters and films at the same time, but none of them were all under the same banner.
Yeah.
No, yeah. And I think that's kind of one of been it what you guys said. I think you hit it really good. you said it feels like they're kind of going backwards. Think of the pre-MCU era. Let's not even talk about the 80s when there were just really bad comic book movies coming out. And trust me, I know most of us can think of a few of them. But you get to the 90s and the early 2000s, and that's when we start getting superhero movies. We get the X-Men from Fox, we get Spider-Man from Sony, and those were, well, I'm going to be completely honest. Let's just be straight. The X-Men were moderately successful. They were never super blockbusters. The super blockbuster was Spider-Man, and that was a given. Everybody wanted to see Spider-Man. And then you had things like Ghost Rider, Punisher, that Ang Lee Hulk movie. And then, of course, none of this being... Yeah, I'm not even going to that one. That was bad.
That was a hell of a thing.
But when Disney decided to come up with the MCU, they decided to make, the standalone movies, give each character their own, give most of the characters their own time, and then put them all together. And I think that's one of the reasons why the original Justice League failed, because I think most of us all said the thing, yeah, great, where's the other half of the film? And when we finally got the Schneider cut, you're like, oh, great, you're given, because I thought Cyborg was the most ripped character. It was like, he kind of felt to me like Finn from Star Wars, from the Star Wars movies. It's just like, hey, we got this guy here. He could really be great. We're just going to have him there and not really give him anything useful to do. And then you get the Schneider cut and you see there was so much more with his character. And then even with the Flash character, it's like, okay, at least we get these characters fleshed out now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think it works, and I think especially with the character of Batman, because people know the character so well, because we've had so many films, I think there's a different expectation for the character. And for me, at least, this new film worked on a certain level because it was different, because it was,
Yes.
it doesn't follow the template that we've had before. And
Yes.
I was happy. I've got to admit, I walked out with a smile on my face. I know there's a lot of people that have taken kind of criticism, and there's a few things that people have said, and there's a certain line that has really annoyed a lot of people, and I will agree, it took me out of the film as well.
Yeah.
When they say it. But we'll probably get into a much deeper spoiler talk tomorrow, I would imagine.
I agree, Purple. I think this could have been a masterpiece. I really do, but they didn't finish chipping away enough. It needed another edit, and it needed to have the last 35 minutes clipped off the movie. And this would have been a masterpiece. So it's worth seeing, in my opinion.
It is worth seeing, absolutely. I would recommend it to people. Definitely check it out. Before we wrap up and let people get on with their Monday, what have you guys got coming up?
Go ahead, Grandpa Geek.
I got some reviews I'm going to be doing, not today, but over the next couple of days, and then posting them. I'm kind of getting into some old shows, or older shows, not old shows, and movies that I've never seen, and I'm doing reviews on them. So I got The Wire, my retrospective of the 5 seasons of The Wire. I got a retrospective of Justified coming, and I'm going to do one on the 47 Ronin, because
Nice.
I thought that movie was just really great. And I felt bad for the fact, and I looked up what the issue was, why it didn't get anywhere. And, it just had bad timing and a few other issues. But overall, I thought the story was solid. And it made me want to go and look up certain things, because I'm not Loki. I don't have a great knowledge of Japanese culture. So there were certain things that were said in there, and I said, I need to go look this up and see what they're talking about. So like when they go to that I think they're called the Tengalu, and I'm like, okay, I need to look up what these are, because I had no clue, and it made me want to look up stuff, and I think that's a mark of a good movie.
It is, yeah. It's always good when you can find something new and something that grasps your attention when you watch a film. It's a really good film, like a I think Brandon said 47 Ronins was great. It is. It's one I haven't seen for a while, but I will check that out. But Salty, what have you got coming up?
Oh, Lord, it's a busy week. Thank you for asking. Well, I'm going to be lucky enough to have you back this Tuesday night. Maxfield Von Priestley might drop around. Of course, Zax, my wonderful co-pilot, will be talking tomorrow night. We're going to have a lot of fun. The wonderful thing that Amazon's Lord of the Rings is all showing us is don't start a video and walk away from it. So I anticipate that we will probably be talking about things related to Batman, Lord of the Rings, possibly a couple other movies coming out there. And also Morbius. I would like to hear what you guys tomorrow night. Let's talk about Morbius a little bit. That will be at 7:15 Central. On Wednesday, I am going to be with Nordporeal Lifeform talking about aliens again. And if you're up, Purple, you should come on and hang out with those guys. They are wonderful to work with. They just hit me out of the blue and said, come on our show, and they're fun. So check them out on Wednesday. That was a good
show you guys had last week. Enjoyed that.
That was so much fun. It really was. On Thursday, I'm going to be on Baron Ortman. I'm butchering his name. Baron Tug's show. We're going to be talking about a TBD topic, and then of course Friday is when I'm gonna chill and watch Friday Night Tights. So thank you so much for the invite today, Purple. It's always wonderful to work with you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, both guys. It's great to see you, and Project Storytime, great to see you, and Brandon, a huge thank you guys for joining. As Salty said, we've got a busy week. We've got videos coming out this week. We've got a new show starting on Wednesday afternoon, which is going to be a true crime panel-based show that I'm really looking forward to.
Sweet.
We've got our normal shows during the day. We've got I'm going to be joining Lorena Creole, and I'm guesting on a couple of other channels as well that I'm really looking forward to. So, and we've got Tuesday night as well, and tonight I think I'm going to be lucky enough to join Clobbering Times as well to talk a little bit more Batman. So we have got a really busy week. I'm so looking forward to it.
Brilliant.
Now,
you deserve it.
Now, is it legal in the algorithm to have two absolutely amazing females on the same panel with you and Lorena Creole? She is just an absolute sweetheart.
She is an incredible lady. We have some brilliant ladies in the community as well. We're very lucky. We've got some amazing guys as well. Chris Wood says, "What's the true crime show called?" It's called Dark and Disturbing. So
awesome.
So that will be on Wednesday. We've got a panel. We've got a Dagger Outlaw is going to be joining us. Lord Thuff and the lovely My Nerdy Home Steph is going to be back as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. It's going to be fun. So guys, let me say a massive thank you to my fantastic panel. Really enjoyed getting to talk Batman. No doubt we will be talking about it again because it is a fantastic subject. And guys, if you haven't seen the film, we would definitely recommend it. Let us know what you think and then we can talk spoilers down the road. I'm probably going to do a, well, I have done, I'm just waiting for it to process. It might take a little spoiler video as well. So that should be out, if not today, then tomorrow. Let me say a massive thank you to everybody who sent super chats, sent super stickers, sent member chats. I really appreciate it, guys. You are the best as always. So have a fantastic rest of your Monday. Take care of each other, and no doubt we will see each other around YouTube very soon. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a blessing.